Motion to go back into open session.
So moved. Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Okay. Call the regular board meeting of December 7th to order. So first, pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moment of silence. Thank you. We have to let you know that all 5 board members are here, Barbara, Richard, Merle, and the rest of myself. Austin Callanan and Robin Davis, manager and assistant manager. Mike Hoffman, that's what your name is. And Kimberly. Oh, and Sharon. So. The mayor said he'll be showing up shortly, but motion on the consent agenda, please.
If you want any of the financials presented to you, you have to pull them out, just step by if you want.
Yeah, that's true.
It's up to you.
Well, I think I think we should pull it out and get a high level overview.
I would agree with that.
So motion to approve the consent agenda minus the treasurer's report.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right, for October R&E, we were budgeted to lose money this month, which we in fact did, but we lost less money than budgeted, so that's a good thing for operating. But when you come down to our bottom line, after we included our change in market value, we lost more than budgeted. For our water production for October, I didn't include that on here because they were already printed before you asked for it, was 36,688,000 gallons. 36,688,000. And then there's a couple items on here that are a bit off than budgeted. Our revenue other for electric, we had a bill for $15,000. We billed somebody for $15,000 to replace a transformer, and our GMB invoices are included in there. Our other supplies and expenses, this might start sounding like a repeating record here, that I'm starting to do a monthly entry for the vehicle expense clearing instead of doing it at the end of the year. And our change in market value is $104,000 of a loss for October.
Actually, that's not bad.
Any questions on October?
Would you say that we're trending in a better line as far as getting back to our reserve fund, or would you say we're higher or lower than we should be?
Our cash is looking healthier every month.
To what?
If we're not counting the market value
Understood.
fluctuations.
Understood. Are we if you looked at that in terms of a catch-up mode, right? In order to be, in agreement with our policy, how far off are we on that?
I couldn't tell you exact numbers or how long it would take, but that can be a project that I can work on for you.
I wouldn't want a big project.
They're also,
Yeah.
you're having, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
For our year-to-date October, it is more of the same, that we're performing better than budgeted under all 3 categories here, not just the top 2 operating. The same, budget differentials are the same categories as just October. And I also have, November's water number. I don't know if you want that or if you want it to wait until the January meeting for that. Great. November's water production is 29,665,000 gallons. 29,665,000.
Thank you.
Yep. And then I did make a mistake on this note for change in market value. It should read the 278,000, not the 104. That's from the October. Any questions on the year to date? And then I also have the liquid assets graph that I kind of change every month because I still don't know exactly how I want to present it. So any input is greatly appreciated. We have our investments, our operating account, and our ARPA funds to create our total liquid assets. And I do a little synopsis on the side of yearly for the investment account. And I started including a monthly for operating. Yearly for investment, monthly for operating. And as
We're gonna work into one of those models, where we need to be in our reserve policy.
I can, yep, I can do the target. Yep. Any other input right now on the graphs? That's all I have.
On, Inframark Report. Jeff are here.
Good evening. Okay, so I'm assuming everybody heard about the digester building issue. During the first week in November, the digester electrical issue reappeared, after it had disappeared for several months. We had nickel out. After a couple of days of troubleshooting, they determined the cable was the issue, and they generated a quote to BPW. BPW gave a PO with the understanding that it would be completed, or they try to complete it before the Thanksgiving holiday, which didn't occur. We were let know the first the Monday of Thanksgiving week that they were having lead time issues. So kept getting pushed back, and we were not getting great communication from the vendor. So Wednesday, the 29th, we brought in a portable generator to put the building online due to concerns, that the project was going to be delayed longer. So at that time, they gave us a schedule, and they were to be done yesterday, which they did not make. They haven't really started the project. Continuous delays have occurred. They haven't been able to get a safety plan approved. So it's supposedly going to be approved tonight or tomorrow, with them projecting to start on Monday and complete on Wednesday. But they're giving us no assurances, and looking at the weather, it's supposed to rain Monday, so I'm not sure based on how hard it'll rain, they'll start, but the rest of the week looks sunny and clear. So that's where we're at with that. Any questions?
I just want to, restate, and Mike, you've been communicative, and Jeff with yours, that this is really a major concern to us. We're coming up on the 4th anniversary of the last wastewater treatment spill, and running in an off normal condition is really of concern. And Christmas is only 2 weeks, the Christmas holiday is 2 weeks away. So I really want to get some sort of assurance from Nichols that they are really going to be on site. They have all of everything that they need on site, and they've got the manpower allocated. And thank you very much. I missed the first note of the fact that they do have the cable puller on site. So, but this has got me personally very concerned.
No, we're all very upset about it. I mean, it's been dragging along and the lack of communication has been very frustrating.
Yeah.
Since it started, how long do you think it'll take?
They said it'll take 1 day to pull the wire out and a day and a half to pull it, and then they'll finish up with complete connections that day. So 3 days is what they're telling us, but that's
I
provided.
understand that generally very, very expensive.
Yeah. I think that would have likely increased the price. I mean,
The price we're paying for that.
worst case scenario, the generator for a month is 7,500, and but if they're charging double time.
But I think to Press's point, and I know where he's going. In addition, we still have the risk that once they pull the cable out, the inspection of the conduit to be able to pull the new cable in. And if they find anything degraded inside the conduit, it's a whole nother ballgame. And so I think one of the things that Press had suggested was, can we get Nichols to work over the weekend?
I can ask them, but it's probably going to adjust the price. I mean, they have, we didn't get it in writing that they were going to get done, prior to the holiday, and I don't think they would have put it in writing. That was just, what they told us. If we got the PO, by Wednesday, they said that they could be done before the holiday.
Right, but that was 2 weeks ago.
Understood. I understand. I mean,
I'm not,
Mhm.
the concern is this needs to get buttoned up, and there's still potential risk factors of completing the project. And I think, Press's, suggestion of working over the weekend or extended hours will help reduce the risk. It may increase cost, but it may
Okay.
reduce the risk.
Yeah, we'll push them to do that. Okay. Moving on to pump stations, we've been having an issue, started over the weekend with pump station 8, was resolved today. It ended up being the VFD that was replaced not more than a year ago, which should be under warranty. Jeff was in contact with United Electric, and we're to send the VFD back in, and they will evaluate it for warranty replacement. So we had a spare, and it was replaced this afternoon. We're also having some issues with pump station 17 controls. It's not a busy pump station, so we can pump it down in hand, but it's been failing intermittently in automatic, and we need to get some capacitors, which we were unable to locate today. We're hoping to get them tomorrow, but we're staffing to pump it down overnight. We recommend replacing that control panel to PS17, and we're going to bring in some contractors to give us some options. Personnel, our new maintenance technician started at the end of November, and we've been struggling to find a master electrician with industrial background, like we discussed last month. I had an alternative plan or an alternative option where Nickel offered to provide a electrician 2 days a week. It would have been, a win-win for us and the authority and the board. it could have reduced, costs, but, nickel has not really impressed us, over these past couple weeks that we've been working with them. So we, closed the requisition, the first requisition and reopened it. And I did get some electricians with industrial background, but they're journeyman electricians. I think, our recommendation is to, move forward with an amendment, to allow a journeyman electrician based on a lot of journeyman electrician that have that kind of experience work for a contractor and they're working under a master and there's really no motivation for them to get their master. So I think that we'll work with Austin and try to put together an amendment for the board's review and try to hire a journeyman electrician.
Thank you. That's see what the details are, but it sounds like a better way forward at this point. Just as an aside, has something changed with Nichols management or?
With a lot of these contractors, they have an A team and a B team and a C team, and the A team's good, and B team's all right. And so, I think they just overcommitted. But, all right. And then regarding the absence of the master electrician, I talked to Austin, or I emailed Austin. We're going to offer a credit for the time that the master electrician's not on site for labor and benefits, minus whatever fees we're paying to Nickel for the pump station. We already got a bill for the troubleshooting of the digester building, and then we had a couple pump station issues that they were out to address. So turned it through the end of December, which I doubt that we'll get somebody in place before the end of the year. It would be 49 working days. So it would be a credit of about $21,000 minus any of the contractor's fees.
Basically be paying the contractor for all the electric we have done.
We're going to credit you the money that we would have the contract that we would have paid our electrical contractor. I mean, our electrician plus benefits, and yes, but minus the contractor fees.
How does that math work out?
We haven't, it was just something that Mike had brought up.
But
There's no numbers or anything.
Not for the digester project is a separate project. This is for just call outs and emergencies.
We still on schedule, that's still, I mean, on getting the equipment.
Originally, they were shooting for January. As everybody knows, everybody's gets to use the supply chain card. And so originally it was January. They pushed it back, I believe, is it April? April.
They will be in January to do the compactor.
Yes, the
Really?
compact, the JWC equipment's gonna be in January, but the planned Ovivo rebuilds on the screens that was planned for January got pushed to April.
So that's when it's gonna be delivered or installed?
It'll be delivered April, be installed in April. Bulk of the work's gonna get done, end of March through June.
On the schedule here for the projects, it's still third quarter.
Yet I didn't receive the communication that they had communicated to us that it's going to be delayed, that they were going to start in January, and I didn't receive the delay.
What, third quarter, 24?
That's when it's supposed to be completed.
Yeah.
That's still the plan for completion of that project.
Okay,
Everything. And that's like HVAC, everything that's associated with it.
so that's still
Yeah.
good, but
The headworks is still on schedule for June completion.
good. Because this is identified as the Edward here. So there's more to it than that.
Yeah. No, well, we're still on track. It's just
This should be Headworks second quarter
second quarter.
and then remainder. First quarter. And how about the generator?
Generator PS4. That's the one it's the question if we're gonna convert to, there's a lot of stuff going on, so it's still in progress.
Have you noticed any more ragging than normal over the last few months, couple of months?
Nothing significantly more than normal now.
Now, is that significantly reduced since the hospital is doing a better job?
Yes.
I was trying to figure out that new assisted living area.
Oh, yeah. Wow. But the hospital's been good, right? Every place you go in, you know, taking all the bathrooms and talking to staff, they're very much aware of it. So.
I wonder if we should have a similar process. with assisted living online.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Any other questions?
We ever receive an official report from DenRec on the annual inspection?
I don't believe we did we?
I don't believe we did.
No.
Uh,
We'll reach out and ask for one, you know.
Second question, I noticed in the effluent nutrient trends graph that the phosphorus levels seem to be trending up. Is there any explanation?
I mean, we only remove phosphorus with chemical addition with alum. So, we try to weigh the chemical addition with the limit. So the limit is 2. Our target's 1 generally.
Over on Connecticut Avenue, it says there's a hatch to the wet well that needs repaired or replaced. There were no hinges on the hatch. Has that been taken care of?
So, Caswell gave us a quote to repair the hatch. They got a metal fabricator to come out and weld them on. After he came out and looked at it, he determined that the hinges needed to be recessed into the ground and under the hatch. So they sent us a revised quote, which I sent to Austin today to have that work done.
And then something that I don't understand, and maybe you can explain to me. It says in the Veolia report that process blowers A and B's average speed has gradually increased since the start of November, linked to the correlated decrease in water temperature. So is that you adjust them or they adjust themselves? It was awkwardly worded.
They adjust themselves, and that's that it should be reduced because as the water gets colder, it's oxygen, the oxygen transfer is easier with the colder water. So I'm not sure where that came from, but we have set points in the control system to meet a certain DO, dissolved oxygen concentration, and the blowers will ramp up and down to meet that.
Do you think that might be a typo?
It's not consistent with what we see is going on.
Okay. What I had.
And the last thing is, I see you're up to 1,100 hours of 1,100 days with no lost time, which is over 3 years. And so I think that's a great effort by you guys.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, I had one other observation that I thought was curious, that you had a peak flow on November 1st. And it's so out of line with, you think it had anything to do with Halloween, the day after? Were people sick or?
I don't know if I have it. I don't have it.
What was the flow on that one?
The flow was,
If I
what was it? It was almost 2 million, 1.7 million.
That, we've had an issue on the first of the month, a couple different times where the readings don't reset. So essentially what you're reading is the 31st and the 1st combined.
Okay.
So I've been in contact with Josh and with, Veolia about the situation. And it tends to happen on the 1st of the month when it occurs.
Was that the info or?
Not Halloween.
Could be.
Yeah, I mean, in our,
Hallows Eve.
for Octagon. I don't know. I don't think that's what was reported to.
No, we corrected it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was corrected.
Okay.
All right.
Any
Thanks,
other
guys.
questions? Thank you very much.
Thank
and
you. And we'll stick around for the discussion on the projects for GMB. Thank you.
Okay, President's report, so, Austin and I met with Orsted Wind to get an update on the state of their project. It doesn't directly impact us, but, was just to keep in tune with, what's going on with the wind farm off the coast, so. I guess the one thing I would say is that I think probably people have seen in the news that Orsted canceled 2 projects up in New Jersey. The project down here is unaffected. The projects were canceled up in New Jersey because of regulatory issues, and the ship that was supposed to erect them, the wind towers, is failed. It went into, so it's in repairs, and it would have pushed them out, I think, 2 years in that project. So the project is not dead, it's suspended, but they have to rejuggle the arrangement, so. But there's a different vessel that's being used for this one, and they confirmed that that one is still on schedule. Came to the city council and the city council workshop. At the workshop, they did approve the supplemental funding request. Oh, no, that's right. They're gonna do it. They discussed it. It's gonna be approved next Monday. Thank you. We had a BPW policy workshop. Went to the SCAT dinner last night, and I also did talk with DeLorean battery storage, just to get an update on the state of the industry. So, you know, they were one of the bidders last time around, and it's been several years since we talked, and so it's really more to get the state of the art from them. So nothing has changed on that aspect. All right, Austin?
So Teal continues the construction at Donovan Smith, 13 services, I believe, Rob, 13, I think. 13 services are connected. So 13 of the total of 130 services are installed, and they're connected, so they're receiving services from us. So that's moving along. We also had, as mentioned, the digester that we're working through. We met with the EPA again, and I think Tom and Barbara on those emails. The EPA wants to move forward with a solar project for us as it pertains to risk assessment. And so we're trying to tee that up and see what it looks like. We did throw the option out there of having a neighboring utility that has similar issues like we do with flooding, like Bethany, but they seem to be focusing on doing a project only with Lewes. Originally, they were trying to team up with Tidewater, but Tidewater actually backed out of the scenario. So again, it's going to be only us.
Could you coordinate with me on communication?
We don't have anything to coordinate because they haven't given us any dates.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
we had the continued discussions, obviously with the county regarding the wastewater treatment plan. And it's been a while since our last meeting. We had the household hazardous waste, which was a success. It was very good weather. Attended the DMEC meeting, just FYI, and Kim and I were there today. They approved a budget that had, roughly an 8% increase in power supply, with a large portion of it coming from Indian River, which everybody's well known of. And so you'll probably see that it's going to be implemented into the UFS report when that comes forward, probably in the coming months as budget season comes up. And then we also met with Patrick McCoy to talk about the strategic plan update, which you'll see there's a proposal in here regarding that. That's all I got.
A question. I've been reading that the state's gonna redo their energy plan. I'm wondering how that's gonna affect us. Do we think they may be increasing the amount of required,
Is it renewable portfolio standards?
yeah,
So they continue to discuss it, but what I'll tell you is that DMEC is very agile in its power supply portfolio. So we also, we're looking across the country, whether it be hydro, wind, et cetera. We already have a very good majority stake in Fremont, which it's a natural gas fired plant. It's still considered emission. It's low emission. But we have Laurel Hill Wind. We have 2 solars, one up in Milford. We have the one up in Smyrna. And so we meet or exceed renewable portfolio standards with the state. So even if they change, we'll be there to make any adjustments we need to make sure that we're in line with it.
thanks.
Yep.
Have they, was a constellation that's putting some solar arrays in other county? That was made that recently.
Maryland's,
Was it on the Maryland side? I thought it was-
I could be wrong.
I just wondered if they heard anything
I
about that. Well, but the check into it. I mean, it wasn't imminent, it was just proposed.
all right. All right, moving on. New business, open forum, general discussion on the annual donation to Lewes Fire Department.
So
Austin?
obviously, this is an annual discussion that we have. We usually go through this process, and then should there be any sort of approval, we take that check to the fire department, typically at their annual ball. I believe Sharon coordinated to see what that date looked like. But at the end of the day, we reached out. We got some feedback from them as to what they planned budget wise, and that information was provided to you. For context, I believe last year we did a $50,000 donation. I believe the city was aiming for a $75,000 donation. So there's kind of your parameters to what the history was associated with this donation.
Why do we make a donation to the fire department? We're a nonprofit, and anything we give the fire department is basically paid for by our ratepayers.
That's been discussed each meeting for as long as I can remember. We've always done it in decades. I guess the rationale is that they provide a service to us.
But we provide water to them.
They pay for it.
They pay for it. The fire department is a volunteer nonprofit organization also, and our line crews, our water crews are all dependent upon the ambulance as first responders. And we're dependent on the fire department for fires, for substations. And so it's something that we've debated over the year. And as everyone knows, I've always pushed to increase it because the fire departments, I think everyone's seen in the press, are really getting pressed, and they don't have the number of volunteers. They're looking at what they're going to do for the long term. We probably are going to see volunteer fire departments go by the wayside in future generations. There's just no interest with kids going, on top of the fact that we don't have very many kids around here.
Barbara, that's the only gift that we give.
Right.
No, we gave the BB hospital.
Well,
as well.
that was just the exception one time.
Oh.
Yeah,
That was during COVID.
that was during COVID, but that's the only thing that's annually.
I mean, do our ratepayers realize that we're taking some of their money and passing it along? I give to the fire department every year. Yeah, I mean, I'd rather see them charge customers directly than charge customers through us and our donation.
I wish we could have received the actual report that we talked about in the last policy meeting that we had asked for. No, went before that, where it kind of showed what their budget was, but also what their reserves were as well.
We asked for that.
I understand.
Yeah.
We don't have it.
Yeah.
I've not voted for this in 2 straight years, and I love the fire department. I think they do a great job. But I think that with our, what we do serves them a lot, whether it's water, whether it's fire hydrants, a lot of different things that we do end up supporting them. If you look at the charter of the city, now I'm talking how Robert Kennedy would be talking. It's in their charter to actually support the fire department. It's not in ours. If we were flush with money like we were 5 years ago, that's one story. We're below our reserve policy. And I said this in the last meeting, we're going to basically, in a little facetious, we're going to borrow money to pay them money. And I don't think that's what we should be doing for our customers. So I've said that for a couple of years now.
Richard?
I'm torn. I'm leaning towards Earl's. In having to do with, we are in a non-flush condition, even more than last year and before. Yet it is a civic support volunteer association. Maybe a donation, but it's more like 25,000. I was thinking, honestly, I was thinking it's going to cut that rock rusher. Are we going to continue giving? I don't know. I can support that.
The only thing I would say is that besides the civic duty, not to beat a dead horse, but we are reliant on them for protection of all of our infrastructure and our personnel. So, but, the will of the board is.
I'll make a motion that we do give to the fire department 25,000 this year. And you consider an amount next year. I
Or one.
Just, I think you should call the no votes just for the record.
Myself. Oh, you voted no?
I don't think we should give them anything.
Well, let the record show that the 2 dissenting votes are for different reasons.
Yes.
And we cancel each other out. So thank you, Mike. I missed that. Open forum, general discussions on, so next item, 8. Do we have?
Yep. So the purpose of this is a resolution. This is to go through the acceptance process as it relates to the Tower Hill offsite and the onsite phases 1C through 5. That would include 1C, 2, 3, and 4 and 5. We went through a couple of kind of checklist items that that we had to go through as part of the acceptance process. All those have been done and included 5 easements, 1 deed, 6 bonds, which are here, 1 for each phase and 1 for the offsite. and we confirmed the amount as it relates to the reimbursement. We also have, and included in your guys' packets that was sent out, is the GMB recommendation as it relates to the offsite and the on-sites that are outlined in this resolution. And so the recommendation is to read the resolution, but the recommendation of both GMB and staff is to accept the utilities outlined in the resolution.
Have a motion to read the resolution by title only.
So we did receive the
Yep.
form, okay, the bond. And they matched the what was delivered electronically?
I had scanned copies ahead of time, so I got to see the scanned copies before they were signed and given to me.
Okay, and they match?
Mhm.
Okay,
And they're signed.
They're signed, yeah.
And the fire hydrants are where they're supposed to be.
yeah, right. So I make a motion that we read the resolution by title only.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. President, members of the board, resolution number 23-013, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Board of Public Works of the City of Lewes accepting the off-site utility improvements and the on-site utility improvements for phases 1C, 2, 3, 4, and 5 concerning the Tower Hill development. Mr. President, resolution number 23-013 has been read by title only and placed before the board for its consideration and adoption.
We have a motion to approve the resolution as so stated.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Moving on. Open forum general discussion on DelDOT BPW agreement. 120-190-7301 for the relocation of temporary utilities on New Road. Mike?
Members of the board, this is kind of been a long time coming. We've talked about this agreement for several months, I think possibly even to a year. At the end of the day, we've worked with both, myself, our legal counsel, Pete and Mike, and Robin, and we've worked through this agreement with DelDOT. It encompasses all of the relocation of the temporary utilities that were installed as part of the Tower Hill offsite improvements. It encompasses all that work as part of a franchisee under the program with the state of Delaware. And so this agreement outlines everything, including the electric, the water, the sewer. And from a timeline perspective, it still seems like it's going to be like a fall of 24. Don't know how much, validity we're going to keep in that because it's kind of moved. But this agreement kind of ties that up and gets us moving forward. One thing that was done as part of this agreement was there was a very long lead time as it relates to the wire size. And so we actually were able to procure 3 reels of the wire ahead of time. And we have there's a condition within the agreement that it needs to be, it's the Buy America, Build America. And so we have all of that documentation for it. It's written in the contract that DelDOT and its contractor would come to us to purchase that wire. And that was purchased so that it didn't create a lead time issue, just because this agreement would have needed to been signed before they would release their contract to go purchase the material. It was a 12+ month lead time issue with trying to get the 700 MCM wire. So we did this to kind of progress it along.
And what's the status of that wire procurement?
Sitting down.
We have it.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Thank you.
So,
That's collectively good job. There's
Yeah, I know there's a lot of history.
so I guess we need a motion to approve the agreement as included in the packet. So we have a motion to approve the agreement with DelDOT.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good job again.
no issue.
Question, will DelDOT pay us for that wire now or only upon completion of the project?
I think it'd be upon receipt of the wire. They will pay us to basically take possession of the wire.
So we're the banker for them in the meantime, I guess. Yeah.
We are, but at the end of the day, you were talking about, when you're talking about wire like this and you're seeing it because the digester, something very similar is that when you look at these kind of large capacity wire, it's not run on a typical basis. So like when we had this discussion back in May, they weren't anticipating another run of 700 MCM until February of 2024. But they won't release the contractor to purchase the materials until they have a signed agreement and then bid the project out and have a contractor on file. So that's where you get into the lead time issue. And so that's the only thing we're providing. Everything else is outlined that it's to be provided by DelDOT. The only thing that we're going to be doing as part of this project, which is typical across, the entire Board of Public Works system, is that we will do the final terminations within the transformers itself with our people. And there will be an outage associated with it. And we will coordinate with the affected homes when that takes place.
It's just a small area, relatively small area.
To put it in the frank terms, it's Lewes.
Open forum general discussion on proposals for sludge line and foam pump projects.
So we've talked about these two projects many a times. And Vince, you can chime in too whenever you want. These projects have been discussed. So we've had a foam pump issue that we've kind of gone back and forth with. And then we also had at the digester, we moved to primarily, I'm going to say 90% or more, pumping from our digester and hauling liquid with the county. The one caveat is that the current situation and setup is that we're actually throwing piping over top the digester and actually pulling from the digester tank. And the county would like a more permanent solution to be able to pull from. And so with these proposals were for two separate projects, but the sludge handling one was to actually come out of the basement of the digester building, go through the wall, and then come up somewhere in the front of the digester building to a cam lock fitting so that it was easily accessible, that they would just spin their connection on and then they pull. So it's a little bit easier, cleaner for everybody. With our current agreement with Sussex County for sludge handling, it ends up working out really well. I think we factored in about 6 loads a week with Sussex County, and they shift one way or another. But it still falls under the existing agreement, and the county would treat it as if we're hauling pavements. So the staff recommendation, obviously with the two proposals that you have in front of you, is for Harry Caswell. Again, they are two separate projects. So it would be best if we approve them individually instead of putting them together. I don't know if it makes any difference. Just because you have one that's the foam pump obviously is 35.5. The foam, I think it was labeled wrong, but the one repipe as per plan. They're both labeled as foam pump, but I think the one, yeah, it's a typo. You know which one's which?
I think the first one's the foam pump, the second
One-
one's the sludge.
Yeah, the sludge.
Yes.
I also talked with Harry Caswell that they would honor the price because obviously we had a meeting that was a little bit kind of not on a normal schedule. The other thing that we're working to as part of this project is there's a valve that has to go in the digester building. That valve is a specific valve that you source through a couple different vendors, but the main vendor is Sherwin-Logan. I'm trying to nail down the ETA on that valve. If we don't do it through the American Iron and Steel Act, then it's a little bit cheaper and it's not even in this circumstance, and we're not going after federal money to pay for it. The original quote, I think, was like 16 weeks years ago. So they said it was going to free up a little bit if we didn't do that. But that's totally separate from this proposal. That's something that we have to do ahead of whatever this is. Obviously, we got two prices, one from Harry, one from Spring. You can see the difference between the two. It's pretty significant. But we've had a lot of work done by Harry Caswell. They're doing the piping at PS 15 right now. Did I get it right? Yeah. And so staff recommendation is to approve the two projects outlined in Harry Caswell's proposal.
All right, do you have a motion to approve, the pump connection? For 39,965.31 from Harry Caswell.
So moved.
Yes,
Some individually.
So moved.
Second.
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then, second, for the sludge pump connection, from Harry Caswell at the rate of $35,500.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you guys. Have a great holiday.
Yep, thank you.
Take care.
Other things in area that we don't do on.
Yeah, yes. And you're going to, one of the things completely off topic, but lead and copper is going to be a new discussion that's probably going to come up. And what Robin and I learned, is it off topic? It's off topic.
Little leash.
Okay, a little leash. When we were at the conference, one of the things was that you had two different methodologies when it comes to lead and copper. One was you do like the DC water method, which is they fund and they have their own contractors that go on and do the replacements all the way inside the home. The other one was actually the city of Baltimore, where they went out to bid for a service, and that service was to replace individual house services. And so they actually contracted with 3 different firms. And what that did was that got the board away, or I say board in this context, but it got the city of Baltimore away from having to have the private agreements for entering private property, because they basically said, we identified your service as lead. Here are your 3 providers that you can go to replace the service. And those 3 providers were already bid out a unit price, and they would bill the board for that.
I'm a big fan of it. I mean, I think what he does.
He's fair too.
Big difference in costs.
Yeah, and we've had Sprague do wonderful work. We really have. They did Pump Station 3, and they've done Pump Station 3, and I think they did Pump Station 9 or 19 out on Sussex Drive. They've really, both contractors do very good work. It's just they priced up a little high.
Well, and a lot of it's depending upon fitting into their schedule.
Uh-huh.
So if they're low on work, you get a lower price. If they're booked up, you pay a premium. So, but I agree, both seem to be very valid contractors, so. All right, open forum, general discussion on the new updated strategic plan. So Austin, why don't you start off and I will chime in.
So obviously, it was about 5 years ago that we started the process of doing, and I don't know if it was our first strategic plan, but it was a very,
First one that goes back to when I got into it. On the 11th of May.
yeah. And so we actually went through, and we got proposals from several different companies, but we landed on Spot Stevens and McCoy. I think everybody that was on the board at that time can agree that they did a very good job. They really walked the board through the process, and I like to think that they brought the community along with the process. We had a lot of sessions where there was actually a group that was included from the community, made up of realtors and restaurateurs and normal public individuals that were involved in the strategic planning initiative that got shaped, and that really had a 5-year outlook. And that 5-year outlook pretty much sunsets after this year. And so what we wanted to do is go back out, and Tom and I sat down with Patrick McCoy, and we talked about where we were at today, kind of what's changed, where we think we're headed, and keeping it as high level as we could so that he can understand kind of where we're at today and where we're looking at going. And what you have in front of you is a proposal to essentially update that 5-year plan to extend out an additional 5 years and work through that process.
Austin, they did a great job. You're
They
right.
did.
Do you know whether the lead facilitator who really led that really well, exceptionally well, whether he's going to be still involved, whether he's still works with them?
I am not sure. I believe his name was Brian, if I can remember. And I think he told us who would be involved, and I don't think it was him.
No, he had said that came up.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he's still with them
Yeah.
or what, but it was gonna be a different one, the two things I would add to what Austin said was, Spot, Steven and McCoy, that was my first experience with them. And, they made the process as painless as it could be, because it had, as Press said, it had not been done in a long time. And we were in the midst of a lot of stuff at that point. So they they reduced the burden on staff as much as could possibly be. And secondly, now they have all that background. So updating it means, versus going to another company, not having to bring them up to speed to where we are. And the third thing I would say is that we probably should have done the strategic plan last year, because we went through almost all the actions that were on the strategic plan. And we really need to, with where the industry is now and where we are, a new strategic plan. So, and it'll help set priorities for things like which policies to attack first, where areas of, concern are. So.
I totally agree. I just hope that the new guy is as good as the old one, because he really led the charge. And
Oh, yeah.
was really organized, and as you're saying, they really flowed smoothly, because I've been involved in several of them over the years, other places, and it was probably really painless.
And thorough.
Yeah.
And extremely thorough.
I've known Spot Stevens. They do a lot of it since 1970. They've been long.
Are they in Pennsylvania? Yeah, because I'm familiar with them up there.
But
Okay,
Patrick McCoy lives in Lewes.
part-time,
Yeah, kind of.
yeah.
All right.
A retainer? Retainer required?
I think the retainer-
They
Yeah, that
just
was-
mentioned the fixed
Lump sum.
price.
That was gonna be my question of how we're paying them, because it'll be a budget adjustment that I need to do. If it's a lump sum or half upfront, half finished.
I don't remember how we paid.
Yeah.
I think it was percentage based.
Yeah,
I think there was.
I thought it was draft and, it was,
It was a draw schedule is what I
Yeah.
call, with like key, once you met 12%, you pay out.
Right.
but it was also quite a bit more than this the first time.
I think it wasn't too far off. I don't think so. But you also got to think it was 5 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, so from that perspective, it was,
And we're happy to look in different avenues at different vendors. We just went back because I believe if I can remember and Press, I think you were here for that, was when we reached out to Hometown Connections, and I believe Hometown Connections was a very expensive cost compared to Spot Stevens, and we were happy with Spot Stevens, so that's why we returned to them.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually, because I've known Patrick for a while, I didn't know that they actually did that. And they were helping us at the Children's Beach House on something. And I just casually mentioned it, and that's how we ended up with them, because they said we could do that, because we were looking at Hometown Connections at the time, and they gave a better proposal.
so, motion on the proposal. To accept the proposal from, Stevens and McCoy.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Something else for the new year. I know everyone was trying to figure out what they were gonna fill their time with.
I think Mike especially, right?
All right, open forum, general discussion on the bid for the Wellfield Common Header Replacement Project. So,
Go ahead, Ben. I'll introduce it. So the gist of this is when we went after and secured the loans for two projects, one being the water tower and the other one being the canal crossing. The water tower project, we knew that we kind of had a unique situation because the common header and the water tower work is kind of two separate kind of jobs at the end of the day. And so when we talked with the state, if there was the ability to separate it under the same PO, the state was okay with it. And so what we did here is we actually bid out the common header work, which includes the altitude valve that will be at the old water tower, and the repiping of all the internal wells, new metering in the wells. So we're essentially saying from the wellhead up is getting brand new piping all the way back to the treatment building. We also confirmed that we had a project that was done when the water plant was built in like the 2011 timeframe, where we confirmed that all the piping leaving the wells was ductile iron going in both directions. And so it seems that we have ductile iron basically to the edge of that property all the way down on Savannah Road, and that's also at Kings Highway. So when we talk about the future projects of Kings Highway after the roundabouts, we would look to replace that and connect in. We would have a place to connect into with good pipe. So I'll leave it to Ben.
One sec, just let the record show that Andrew has joined us, the mayor of Lewes, so. All right.
Yes, so good evening. We opened bids for this project on December 1st, last Friday. We received 4 bids from Mumford & Miller, Chesapeake Turf, Hopkins Construction, and Teal Construction. The lowest responsible bidder was Teal Construction for a total of $1.545,400. We reached out to them as part of the requirements to award the bid. They had to provide documentation that they received or utilized and advertised for DBE requirements as part of the DHSS process, which is giving a fair shake to disadvantaged business owners. They provided all that documentation that was in the our letter of recommendation for this project, and as such, we feel that we're recommending approval to Teal Construction.
Can you explain, one thing I didn't, Schedule D, which is a deduct,
Yes.
what was that for?
So that gave, we weren't sure where the bids were going to come in exactly when we at first were putting this all together. So we wanted to, I say we had an idea of where the bids were coming in, but relating to the total funding package, we wanted to give the board an opportunity to take that piece out if they wanted to, because it's kind of a easy way to delineate a separation of work. So it just gave the opportunity if you wanted to award that. I guess award that's probably a weird term to think about, but take that work out of the total work effort going on at the well field.
Are you talking about the Schedule A, B, and C?
No, Schedule D.
Oh, yeah.
D is the deduct for the well houses.
So we would have kept the existing piping in the well houses?
Correct. We
and
would
just tied in.
Yeah, we would have tied in about 5 feet outside of the well houses. So everything would have been new except for what's in the well houses.
Okay.
And the purpose of this is essentially when this is all said and done, water tower goes up, this piping done, everything at that well field, your plant would become your oldest asset, minus your wells themselves, which we're talking about relining, and we started to, and we're seeing a very good production out of those relining projects. But we really wanted to benchmark ourselves, so we set ourselves up for the future, because that spot particularly is very, very good when it comes to well production and the quality of the water.
And just for the record, I mean, I'm sure everyone knows it. We don't understand right now how the wells are fighting each other. And so the common header project is to get clean pipe in, because we kind of think there's got to be an obstruction someplace, because when you run the pumps, they seem to be fighting each other.
What was
Is that a valid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Engineer's estimate for this.
1.6 million and change. There's a little bit of 1.1601.
That's real close.
Just so you know, the first three bids were the one that.
Oh, God.
So we got to the last.
Yeah, yeah.
So does this work include, what I remember that there was some discrepancy between the header and that went down to a smaller size before it went out.
This is
That does away, and this is now,
16-inch ductile iron pipe all the way down. And then I believe it's 8-inch coming off the main and feeding each one of the well houses. Brand new piping in every well house.
And you did some estimates of production. Based on, I don't know quite how you did it. It should kind of be a lot of guessing. That was more than we thought we could get from that.
Correct. Yeah, I don't have, I can follow up with the numbers. I don't have them exactly,
I'm
but
not
it
asking,
was,
But
it was a pretty
was a
good
positive
improvement.
thing.
Yes.
okay.
If you
And-
were to look at it holistically, what it did is you could see that it basically, you know, as a supply chain guy, you look at your bottlenecks. Your bottleneck would theoretically become your plant because your wells have the ability to produce X amount. That common header can handle X amount, and your wells having internal piping of 12-inch. I mean, your treatment building have internal piping of 12-inch would be your next bottleneck.
Yeah. We didn't know what the coefficient of roughness was. So
Correct. Yeah. And
still don't know.
correct. And
We'll have
go
a
ahead.
better idea when we take it out.
Yeah. What's the schedule? How long, we heard this long schedule for piping. So what is that?
Yeah, so
Is there a project schedule established?
there's not been a project schedule established yet. Obviously, the first step is getting the recommendation for award. Talking with Teal, just kind of loosely off the record, you know, they're saying about a year to maybe 18 months to get the pipe.
Yeah.
You know, that's again, kind of dependent on when they run the pipe. It's a little bit more of a odder size, you know, bigger, less, you know, use of common use of it.
It's not, he was saying it's like your goal is to have 10,000 feet, linear feet. So this is about 2,000. So he goes, they may be able to fit you in a run. He goes, you know, his supplier, if it's Core and Main, they would basically reach out and say, okay, can it be run in a production, you know, in 2 months or 3 months? Until you actually get something on the books and they put an order in, they won't give you a set day.
So
This delay has nothing to do with the Buy America requirement, does it?
I don't think so.
yeah, I don't think so. I would say just in general schedule, you know, conditioning that you guys approve this tonight, we would have to work to get the agreement set forth with Teal, and then we'd look to probably have a pre-construction meeting in early January.
And then water tower project timeline for bid. Bid shoot.
Spit shooting, hopefully by end of January. We're hung up a little bit on the electrical work there.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion to accept GMB's recommendation to award the contract for Schedule A, B, and C to Teal Construction.
so moved.
second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Moving right along. What's the water tower gonna look like? Open forum, general discussion on water tower logo and designs. So Austin, Robin,
So just so you know, the only thing that we're coming back to related to this is the last thing you had mentioned to us was would Cape agree? And a lot of it was hindered upon the estimate on what it was going to cost. So we actually went back and Ben pulled it, and I believe the estimate was like $20,000 roughly for the logo cost, their logo cost. Yeah, that's what I remember. And so I reached out to Cape and just threw it out there. They said that helps them out a lot because they can budget for it. They don't see a problem with it on their end. I don't know if you think about formalizing that in some sort of agreement or if you guys are okay with moving forward with it. I just wanted to let you know, just through conversation, it doesn't seem to be that big of a deal. The bigger thing they wanted to do was confirm what the cost was gonna be so they could budget.
I think we should get it right. I really do, because that's a lot of money and, school boards change and principals change and.
Really up to you guys. Like I said, I just wanted to bring it back and just let you know that they did not flinch at the number.
I didn't have any right with the sense.
Fortunately, nowadays, I think we should be right.
I think that should have been it, right?
Yeah.
So,
All right, so-
we'll have the BPW facing, I guess, the
Kings Highway.
Kings Highway, and then
Right,
Kate
yeah.
facing
Kings Highway, like Route One
the
side,
practice fields.
and basically kind of over top the football field.
Yeah.
But what we'll do is I'll work with Mike and Pete, and we'll try and get something together, and we'll work with Kate. They've been good. We're working through an easement with them now, and they.
Don't have press negotiate, because pennies from Sally's too. And I like that too much.
I wasn't gonna mention that.
Okay. So we'll bring this back,
Yeah.
next month,
Yeah, it's fine.
or next year, I should say. Open forum, general discussion on auditing services, from ZNA. Kimberly and Austin, you're up.
Go ahead, Kim. Hey, you got this one.
So it's exactly the same as we presented it the first time with the fees, but we added the last sentence and the last paragraph that we can cancel at any time with or without cause.
And we worked with Mike, so this is going through Mike. And the auditors didn't have a problem. They added it in there, no issues whatsoever. I think from a decision point, though, you have two different options.
Right.
One's for 3 years, one's 5 year.
Yes, and the 5-year, the fees start out lower. It starts out at the fee that we paid this year and then 2%. And then the 3-year starts out with a 2% increase from this year and increases 2%,
Staff recommendations.
5 years.
So, bifurcated, let's start with the staff recommendation. We have a motion to,
Excuse me. So what it means is we start out with the 5-year. That also is, we can cancel at any time.
Correct.
Right.
Why wouldn't you
It's-
take the
It
lower
doesn't
cost?
matter which of the two.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So our recommendation is to do the 5-year
Right.
with the ability that you can cancel at any time.
so do I have a motion to approve the proposal from ZA Auditing for the 5-year contract for 2024 to 2026
Yeah.
as amended?
2024 to 2028.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
What's in my book is 3.
Someone
pages
keep
of
me
the-
straight,
Of
please.
the same, of the lowest one, the lower one. Anyway,
I'm sorry.
so
The
moved,
5-year 2024 to 2028.
so moved.
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Open forum, general discussion on cross-connection control plan. Mr. Davis,
At the last month meeting, we had a marked up version because all the comments that we were provided by the members and Pete's office. What it did is took all those comments, put them all together and cleaned it up, and before you was hopefully a final version of that document. Mike's office did look at it, Mike did look at it too, and had some additional minor comments, and they have been provided in there, so hopefully at this point, we have a resolution.
I have a question.
Sure.
On section 9. Water customers with non-residential service connections. What does that mean? What's an example of a?
It's like commercial reductive.
Does it also include cultural and
Okay.
community as in the table of zoning? Yeah. Does it, I wonder if we should add all those.
But actually, don't we have, it's based upon our rate structure,
Ah.
Our classification.
Oh, okay,
not,
okay.
not zoning.
That makes sense
Yeah,
then.
it's
Okay.
based upon-
But I did have one suggested change. In section 7
Of the document?
of the document, you talk about at least once every year, residential service connections will be inspected. And I understand it's not all residential service connections that require it. Down in section 8, there's a handy little phrase inserted about residential service connections that says required to utilize a backflow protection device. Shouldn't that also be in section 7?
Are you talking about the resolution itself?
Yeah, oh yeah, the resolution, I'm sorry, not the, not.
Barbara, can you, I was looking at the wrong document. Can you
Okay.
repeat, summarize the question?
Okay, section 7, the second sentence. Subsequent testing of assemblies shall be conducted upon responding to a reported backflow incident immediately upon repair or relocation and at least once every year for residential service connections. But not all residential service connections are covered by this, are they?
Connection. That's your function.
Yeah.
Cross connection,
The backflow prevention device, yeah,
that's the connection.
right.
Connection to the house.
Right,
Right.
I think because it starts off with all testable backflow prevention assemblies shall be tested. So if you don't have a backflow protection device, this paragraph doesn't apply. So if you just have a domestic water with no reason to have a backflow prevention, you don't have to have it tested because you don't have one.
Okay,
I mean, that's my,
Yeah, and so just to put a finer point on that, it's the first sentence, all testable backflow prevention assemblies, and then it says subsequent testing of assemblies. So it refers to the first. That's right. It's a
Got
good
it.
question.
But does that? I have my pit and water's coming into my house and I have no backflow preventer. Isn't that an exposure of contamination because there is no backflow assembly or preventer?
There is a backflow prevention device in the meter pit itself. There's a dual check valve in your meter pit in all standard pits that the city has.
That's why we're talking about once you
Okay.
do a cross tie-in. From that point, that's when you can have the introduction of the cross contamination, because if you didn't have backflow prevention, you could potentially have a situation where you could have reverse flow back in the domestic line.
On the property owner.
like, for example, I mean, I have fire protection in the house. And we've got a separate fire line coming in.
Right.
A very large one. And it has dual check valves with pressure indicators in there to prevent the fire protection system from backflowing.
We have the resolution here that we need to approve this, and Mike does such a fine job.
So we have a motion to read the resolution by title only.
Oh, I thought you were gonna add the whole thing.
All right, well, we can do that also.
Be a good end of the year joke.
Yeah.
Actually, this one isn't long enough.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Mr. President,
Yes.
members of the board, resolution number 23-014, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Board of Public Works of the City of Lewes regarding cross-connection control assemblies for the protection of public potable water supplies, providing legislative findings, providing for the inclusion of the same in the BPW policies. Mr. President, resolution number 23-014 has been read by title only, placed before the board for its consideration and adoption.
Motion to approve the resolution as read by title.
Yes.
Second.
It's only 5:30, Richard.
So moved.
You in a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank- I am so moved. Okay. Open forum general discussion on the wastewater treatment plant, long-range plan. So we're still in discussions with the county. Nothing really more fruitful has come out yet. We will schedule in the new year a new workshop to present information to the public. But Barbara, would you like to provide a brief update on your subcommittees or committees' actions?
Sure. The wastewater treatment plant contingency committee has been working hard to look at technologies available either for option 1 or option 2. And option 1 would be hardening the plant, and option 2 would be finding a new location and building brand new. And we've identified 2 potential technologies, Aqua Narita and Aqua sequencing batch reactor. And we have preliminary designs for the 2 of them. With costing for those particular parts of the wastewater treatment system, so not included would be the headworks, the digesters, the filtration is included, the UV, whatever is not included. We're working towards looking at designs and getting a better understanding of electricity use for these different technologies. We have some, we have one of our members will be talking to someone who had one of these systems installed in 2021 to try and get some feeling about operational consistency and, the story behind what they publish, the real story, and what they're seeing in terms of O&M costs versus they had very detailed plans for a sequencing batch reactor system. But then when they went out to bid, they decided to go with the Aqua Narita system instead. So we've got the predicted electric costs and O&M costs for their SBR system. We hope to get the costs for their Aqua Narita system and electricity usage. And we hope to have that all in a report for the board by our deadline end of January. So.
Barbara, I've had my concerns from day one, and I still have them. Can you tell us how many of those systems have been operating in the United States for more than 4 or 5 years without additional adjustments or upgrades or modifications? I'm concerned that when I listened to the presentation, I couldn't get that feeling. And she kept talking down in the presentation, kept talking about, contacted this one, told me to do this, I contacted this one, so try to do this, and that concerns me. That it's not a technology that all the bugs worked out with. It seems to me to be
technology that's, you know, it's like sequencing that should happen.
Yes, it is.
But it's a little touchier.
As far as getting the granules to form. At one point, I remember her saying that, that
to get optimum size. I think she said a year.
the optimum size granules. Now, if you have a
Breakdown in your treatment process. You got to start that process over again. I understand the granules can start appearing.
But it seems to me,
Rather than having
standard
block,
you have a very touchy granular. I'm concerned that maybe 10 years from now, 5 years from now, this technology will be the greatest thing going. I don't see that. I'm still concerned that we're looking at technology that's not been sufficiently proven and regular for the long term.
Those are legitimate concerns for sure, Press. The startup is one area that we want more information about, the startup period. And they're saying that, you know, in about a month, you'll have sufficiently sized granules to do the job. 3 months, you'll have the real granules, a year to get all of them like that. But it affects more the length of time for treatment. Instead of getting, you know, settling in 15 minutes, you'll get the settling in a few hours kind of thing. So it's more a question of how efficiently you can operate over time. But in terms of resiliency, we've seen some papers about salinity shocks and how quickly they recover from that. We've the person that one of our committee members will be talking to is in Montana, where they have very cold winter temperatures, and that has not been a problem. You're right that in the US, there are not plants that have been operating for more than, I think the first one might have been 2018, and they have 7 online. Well, I thought it was 7 online, but I heard at the seminar today, they now have 9 online.
are they online?
In the US, in operation.
Or are they online? Being tweaked regularly or product? But she kept talking about that that kind of problem too. That individual, not other people. New technology, and she was working with all these plants, tweaking them, and then operating properly. And if they do have an upset, it takes a month to get them back operating. That's concerning. I just think it's technology that's, I've seen a lot of technologies over my career. Very promising. That didn't pan out for one reason or another. And that concern still bothers me that dealing with technology that's not really proven itself.
It has, it's been around the world. It's just the US is late. You know, we're late into the game here.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
You know, following on, and we'll get the full report
Yes.
in January. But following on Press's point, I was taken aback. I listened to it, the Zoom recording, and her pronoun usage. Maybe that's just the way she talks, that it's me, or I, or is, you know, what's the depth of knowledge? What's their skill base? Because that's the part that raised with me was, you know, because I think, what's the size of the company, Aqua?
Aqua Aerobic Systems.
Well, Aqua Narita.
Oh, Aqua Narita is like a branch of Aqua Aerobic Systems.
Right.
And from what I've heard from customers of Aqua Aerobic Systems, they're they are so customer service oriented, which may be why she talks about, somebody has a question, are we doing this right? They call her or they call someone else and she responds and she's proud of her response time.
And that may very well be, it's
yeah.
just when, listening to it blind like that,
Right.
it raised concerns that, if she gets hit by a bus, I
Yeah,
don't.
no,
wish that on anyone,
she's
but-
not the only one, certainly. No, I
or
think
how-
there are
yeah, How deep are they?
104, I think that's in the back of my mind, but I could be off. It could be 140, it could be,
Well, I would think that would be one of the things we'd
Okay.
like to see in the report.
okay.
The one thing to
That's
keep in
helpful.
mind though is that, let's look at the future and say, if we call our guys that run the plants, how responsive are they, right? We talk about the county. If we call the county, we're hooked up with the county, how responsive are they going to be to us? So we need to make sure that we're not looking for perfect, because I don't think perfect exists, but something better than what we have is something that should be considered. And I think we should give the team time to work through it and see if there's some there. Although I hope there is.
I'm
Yeah.
just expressing, from.
I understand.
Not being,
That's good. I appreciate the feedback.
I wish we could all sit in on the meetings,
Yeah.
but
No, you don't.
our legal people won't let us do that, so.
Well, there was a webinar today that was on retrofitting of systems, and that was very interesting. Yeah.
Any questions or?
No, I see that you're talking about wetlands discharge and that type of thing.
Yeah, we've gotten away from that. We looked into that, talked to some professors at University of Delaware, and they were recommending against it. They said the permitting hurdles would be
That was shut
horrible.
down,
Yeah.
That was shut down before I ever got on the board. What's his name? The plant's named after Howard Seymour suggested that before the plant was upgraded 20 years or so ago. And then
Shut that down back then. Diluting freshwater, saltwater marsh. Changed the nature of it, so that.
Yeah,
it was tried it once and they didn't get through.
and the county, they were gonna do a constructed wetland. They
Which I
weren't using,
loved the idea of.
which
yeah.
would have been fantastic.
Yes.
If those, artifacts hadn't been found, but they were not using an existing salt water marsh, so.
Now, I understand there's different levels of salinity in our supposed salt marsh, but we were curious about whether that might help with saltwater intrusion that we'll be seeing as sea level rise continues. So that's why we looked into it. And when I talked to Hans about it initially, he said, DENREC will never allow it, but if election season's coming up, if you talk to the right people. But I mean, that was his advice. So no, we gave up on that. We just want to have very clean water discharged to the canal.
All right, well, we look forward to the report from the committee, so
Thank you.
thanks for the work. All right, call to the public. Is there anyone online? Just us turkeys. Call to the press. Is Bill on? No. Press, would you like to say anything?
No, I'm fine.
All right. Then motion to go into executive session, please.
So moved.
A second,
Second.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Good night.